Friends, Romans, and fellow countrymen, welcome to the latest episode of Prem Sports Rants. So I'm going to go straight into football and the world of wrestling. The Premiership is so agonizingly close. However, last night, so today is the 12th of June, and yesterday, 11th of June, we witnessed the return of La Liga, in which we saw the derby between Sevilla and Betis. It was a good game in the first half, very tight. Good to see two good teams where Betis are a side that are just adjusting to new surroundings. They got invested in new players like Tello and Fekir, whilst Sevilla are in good form. And they had a contentious penalty with Ocampos scoring the first one, and then they scored the second one as well, which led to victory. And they both had changed their squads a bit as well, even Sevilla, because they sold that Dutch winger straight to Ajax, whilst getting Luke de Jong from PS3. So you can even argue, if you want to be a Dutch league fan, that Ajax benefited a lot more than PS3, in which was a tight race the season before, but not so much this season. Sorry, I don't want to go a bit off topic, but anyway, good to see the La Liga season returning, in which Barcelona will play on Saturday at 9 o'clock UK time, and then Real Madrid will play on Sunday. Looking forward to that matches. If you don't have Premier Sports, I'm sure you'll find some way of watching the highlights or any other format of watching the shows. Bundesliga has continued. Bayern Munich and Dortmund continue to dominate. And also, in addition to all of that, Bayern Munich had a really good cup game against Eintracht Frankfurt. They had a really good game a few weeks ago, which we spoke about, in which Bayern Munich eventually won 5-2. But in this game, after a good, strong first half, Bayern Munich were a bit lethargic, and you could even argue they were lucky to just win 2-1 against Frankfurt, away at Frankfurt. I think Frankfurt, like Betis, are a side that have got some issues in sense of new personnel, but they do have quality, and if they can hold it out, it can benefit them in the long term. Since we're talking about football, I have to talk about the controversial decision, but you can say it's understandable because of financial restraints, that League One and League Two in England had to finish and nullify the season. The reason why it's controversial is because teams still had an opportunity to play games, and what's controversial is that some teams had to suffer relegation. Tranmere had an opportunity to, if they had a game in hand, and if they won their game in hand, they would have gone out the relegation zone, because they needed to win a game to be above the team above them. Then they leapfrog the other side and goal difference. So it's controversial. Whilst Peterborough had a game in hand, or they had I'm not sure if they had a game. Yeah, I think they did have a game in hand compared to other sides, including Sunderland. Although Sunderland were very close to that bracket as well, and Sunderland and Peterborough have missed out, and because of that, it's led to a lot of controversies. But Rick Parry, the EFL chairman, English Football League chairman, former Liverpool chairman, chief executive, he had to said at the end of the day they have to think about restraints. So there you go. And am I regurgitating news, or am I just actually explaining what I think? At the end of the day, you have to consider that these clubs do not have a lot of money in the first place. And whilst it's sad for some clubs to suffer, you have to think about the long term for the other clubs, for the majority of teams, in which they cannot continue of having the idea of paying so much money for regular testing, in which only Premiership clubs and even Championship clubs are struggling to do this. But Premiership teams just have enough money in order to be able to do this. And it's unfortunate that it's led to that situation. And I should be not just regurgitating information, but giving my point of view. So about the whole Real Betis Sevilla match, unfortunately, decisions are going to be contentious, and it's going to cause a lot of issues. But at the end of the day, that's what makes football so interesting in the first place. And whilst it's sad that Sevilla were the victors and Betis suffered, that's what happens in derby matches. I'm sure every refereeing decision in all derby matches will be questioned. Now, I want to have as short as possible podcast So I want to now go straight into the world of wrestling. NXT in your house, really good match. I like the win screen. So basically, Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole, the champion. Brilliant match. What I liked about it was some people didn't like the cinematic approach, but I like the idea that they're going along with it because at the end of the day, with a limited crowd, and let's face it, it's not really a crowd because they're paid employees. You want to try to experiment other things in which were not necessarily tailored to the majority of the WWE universe, which are family-based audiences. So it was nice to see the approach of the street fight, in which the windscreen incident as well. Whoa, that was really good. I liked the fight, and well done for Adam Cole. I just hope NXT, I have to say this straight away, because Ciampa lost his match against Cross as well, which was shocking because Ciampa's been like the face of NXT for so long. I hope Ciampa and Velveteen Dream stays, and in fact, I hope they actually strengthen NXT with some other guys of some WWE wrestlers that may not want to remain in WWE. Maybe Randy Orton may go to NXT for a bit because they've got the luxury of having no live shows, so they can experiment with wrestlers, go into NXT for a bit. I say Randy Orton because him and Ciampa have been trading blows in regards to tweets, so it'll be interesting for them experimenting at NXT because they already took away a certain bro. So they need to look at trying to sustain NXT as an interesting product. Now, what I really watch as often as possible, Raw. Before I talk about how much I enjoy Raw, it has come to the wrestling world's attention that Paul Heyman has been relieved of his duties of the creative department, and Richard, who's been at SmackDown, has joined forces to combine the creative work of Raw and SmackDown. And it's interesting because I'm a massive Paul Heyman mark, and I'm not in the reality is you cannot blame one person, but unfortunately in the world of wrestling, he was the head of creative of Raw, and what's happened is that Raw, as we've always said, was not great. Because of the pandemic, they didn't always have access to all the wrestlers, but it was just not really interesting, and it was hard to watch at times until a few weeks ago. But because of that situation and the ratings, Heyman's been relieved of his duties and Pritchard has taken over. And I have to mention that because it was one of the first Raws that I was gobsmacked. I was interested throughout the show. You have to love the peep show of what Christian did. Quite controversial how he reminded Edge about his mother, trying to make it as personal as possible. Then Randy Orton gave his input. I think all three wrestlers, an ex-wrestler and Christian, Randy Orton, and Edge performed brilliantly. And before that, we had the Messiah, Seth Rollins, give a quick interview with Rey Mysterio, and the way Aleister Black put that interview to a halt was amazing, doing a suicide jump onto Seth Rollins, who's on the commentary table conducting the interview, through how many of us are communicating currently using social media, internet. Brilliant. And that match as well, the tag team match, fantastic. Because now, I've been a critic of Austin Theory before, but now he's involved with a more compelling storyline. And perhaps one reason why Paul Heyman has lost his job is because, unfortunately, the reality is you need to build, whilst they're talented wrestlers, the guys of Gaza and who Austin Theory was with before. I don't know why I cannot remember his name. Fantastic wrestler who's going to fight for the Intercontinental Championship after winning that freeway. They need time to build. Just like Baron Corbin needed time to build as well. Now being King Corbin has given him a chance to really solidify his position as a major player in wrestling. So I think it was a fantastic match. Humberto Carrillo did really well, as did Buddy Murphy. Fantastic. It was in the intensity, the moves they can execute, the storyline. You can see where you got two people that are believing that Seth Rollins is Messiah. Fantastic storyline, so much involved into it, and I hope it continues. And then obviously I did allude to it before, the triple threat match. Before heading into it, I thought it was a stupid match. I was hoping they put Titus O'Neill or Shelton Benjamin or even Akira Tozawa. But then it turned out the dynamics of the match ended up being really good, because you saw that the companionship amongst the two Latino wrestlers, it wasn't really strong, and it led to them to not to work as a team anymore. And then obviously we saw I can't remember his name. I should know his name. Let's just call him Mr. Charlotte Flair. And it was a fantastic ending. And it's really important because, first of all, they are there because they want to find someone to take over the Latino fan base of Rey Mysterio had. They've been trying to do this for years. Unfortunately, it didn't work under Del Rio. And now this is the route they've been going for. And may it work, because at the end of the day, every wrestler deserves a fan base opportunity. And this way is. And now SmackDown is going to be on tonight. I hope for a great show, because SmackDown delivers always. If we're going to see Jeff Hardy, they'll promote the final build-up before Jeff Hardy fights Sheamus. Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles is going to be a wonderful match. I hope something ends up like with Sami Zayn interrupting that match, because he lost the belt in very unfair circumstances. When you consider that the guy who's going to fight for Apollo for the championship, he was able to hold his US title for longer than 30 days whilst not defending it. So Sami Zayn has got the same legitimate excuse. But nevertheless, let's hope for a great SmackDown, and let's hope wrestling continues in this trajectory. I've really enjoyed wrestling when it's lost the demand of having the casual fans around, because with casual fans you have to fulfill what they want. With a lack of fans, you can be more open-minded with your creativity. Anyway, this is for Prem Sports Rants. Have a lovely